Meyer was willing to jump in and come and present and help us bring perspective. Meyer is a board member of American Friends of Tel Aviv University, a governor, the board of governors of the university, a philanthropist, and also an alum of the university.
Thank you.
And I really thank you for coming. And we have Darius Jones, superstar. And I'm going to let Darius present his incredible work. I'm going to say that I had the pleasure of meeting Darius almost 4 years ago on a trip we did together with Jewish Funders Network and the Jewish Agency to Ethiopia, which was amazing. And I, besides meeting this incredible guy, I found out what amazing work he's doing for years now in supporting the black communities in the US, but also Israel and the Jewish people. So I really thank you for that. We're going to start with two videos that will help us frame the discussion. Then we're going to talk about the importance of, especially today, these days, bringing students from all around the world to come and study and visit and meet with peers in Tel Aviv University and universities in Israel in general. So, can we cue the videos? Can we see them?
Tel Aviv University, it's a very large university. It's the largest university in Israel. We have students from many, many different countries. Our international school has always been a kind of an intimate niche for students who can feel at home with each other, with their professors. But it's always been part of the story of why international students want to come here.
It's about surrounding yourself with people who make you feel comfortable, loved, safe, and that environment is tenfold here.
Having watched everything unfold on campuses in America this year, having been on campus, seeing all my friends struggle, it's really opened my eyes to how much Tel Aviv has given me. So trust me, if you're weighing your options, it's time to come home.
When I decided to go to college in Israel, I definitely expected to be at a different level than what an American university experience would be like, both academically and just socially. I mean, Tel Aviv is blown away by expectations of what an Israeli college experience would be like.
Here you have the opportunity to be part of something so meaningful and still get the education that you're looking for.
One of the things that you can see is the amount of experts that work here, as well as the integration between experts and industry here, which I think is pretty unparalleled. All you have to do is sort of hop on LinkedIn and take a look, and you'll see every single project that has to do with something that's pushing forward in any field has a link to Tel Aviv.
You have the best university in Israel. You have the center of Israel's economic capital, which is here in Tel Aviv, so your career opportunities are right at the doorstep for you. And at the same time now, you can also feel religiously at home.
You're always only 10 minutes from the beach. The culture is everywhere, the food's amazing, everything you need in a small area where you can just get around and hop on a bus and you're in class in 10 minutes.
Throughout everything that's been happening, I feel like people are there for me, where I know for a fact if I was in the States, it wouldn't feel the same way.
If you want to be challenged as an academic and a thinker, if you want to set up your professional career, and if you want to enjoy this weather in February, it's time to come home.
It's time to come home.
It's time to come home.
It's time to come home!
We're waiting for you here with open arms. It's time to come home.
Come home to Tel Aviv University!
Class of 2025, you just completed a course of rigorous study. Be proud of a job well done. You got signed a memorandum of understanding. This collaboration will expand the university's ability to introduce our students to the global academic environment, focused on learning and experiential opportunities with leading institutions of higher education and corporations in Israel.
This MOU and the opportunities it provides positions TSU as a leader in an emerging area sorely needed in our world, that being academic diplomacy. Partnerships like this remind the world what is still possible when we choose to build.
Although this initiative will result in an increase of knowledge for the participants, underlying and deeper benefit will be the engagement with individuals with different life histories, different acculturations, and beautiful traditions, different from those most familiar to us in the United States. This will lead to an appreciation of our shared humanity, an understanding that learning comes not just through the ears and the eyes, but via the heart.
Start, I want to, in 2 or 3 days is Martin Luther King Day. And Martin Luther King famously said, the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education. As we start, I want to ask you, Darius, if we can start with you. In these difficult 2 years that we're going through, how come you're choosing as your main vehicle to take students to Israel? And through that also, of course, tell us about your program and about what it is that you do. I think it's fascinating. When I discovered that, I thought it's important to share with everybody.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Thank you for watching our video. So what's interesting is the work that I do at National Black Empowerment Council, which is very interesting. It is really kind of an extension of who I am as a human being and kind of formative experiences I had in my childhood. Came from a household where both of my parents were very involved in the civil rights movement. They were participants in the famous freedom rides. One of the things they always made sure that I understood that the civil rights movement in the United States succeeded, not only because of the work that was being done by the African American community, they also made sure that I understood there were other people of conscience who got involved in the struggle in a very meaningful way. And the way my mother described it is she always said she was one of our brothers and sisters in the Jewish community and contributed time, talent, treasure, even made the ultimate sacrifice. My father was one of the first African-American students to integrate the University of Memphis in the early 60s. When he was on campus, white students would literally sick German shepherds chasing back and forth to class. The entire 4 years, he had one white friend. There was a Jewish student from Brooklyn who had an apartment near campus, got an extra set of keys made, gave them to my father, said it was mine, it's yours. So I grew up in a household where I was positively impacted by parents who really made sure I understood that no individual has a monopoly on wisdom, that it's through connection with others that we truly can achieve greatness. And they always instructed me to start first in that construction, whether brothers and sisters in the Jewish community. So, President, founder of the National Black Empowerment Council. The National Black Empowerment Council is a national and now increasingly international network of grassroots black leaders in business, politics, academia, health, tech, faith, philanthropy, law enforcement. And these individuals work together from the various positions that they hold, influential positions, to leverage their resources, their relationships, their institutional influence for the upliftment of black people in the areas of education, economic empowerment, community development. What makes National Black Empowerment Council unique amongst all black organizations in the universe is that everybody who is a part of our organization begins their journey into our enterprise on a trip to Israel. Because for 10 years, I worked at the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and I took probably about 400, 500 dynamic black leaders to Israel. And what we found is that Israel is truly one of the most phenomenal examples of peoplehood, of collective self-determination, of resilience that the world has ever seen. And that when you take dynamic black leaders who are looking for a model for how we can continuously elevate our community, there is no better model on the face of the earth than Israel. So we've seen the positive impact that it has had on people in my peer group. Now we're working to ensure that the next generation of black leaders who are going to succeed us are going to have the same level of bona fides in terms of their ability to uplift their community and in terms of their ability to truly understand and advocate in a powerful way on behalf of a strong black-Jewish relationship and a strong U.S.-Israel relationship.
going to jump to Maya, or go back. Even though Maya is an Israeli American, like me, very relevant to the conference that we're in, and an alum and studied in the university, not as an overseas student, as an Israeli, I still want to ask you the experience of, what do you think as a board member, as a leader, the importance of sending students from abroad to the university, and also a personal experience of being in the university, exposed to people from all around the world, a very diverse university.
Sure, thank you very much for having me today. Basically my experience was that I grew up, I was Israeli, but we moved to the United States when I was 5. So I basically grew up as an American, and when I came back to university, it was under the sort of eyes of an American. And I was able to all of a sudden be integrated in the life in Israel through having almost the excuse or the framework of going to school. I was able to see Tel Aviv and understand the different kinds of people who attend Tel Aviv University in this case, and learn from that experience and also be a part of that experience. And I'm truly excited that, for instance, that we have Darius up here, and that the idea would be to bring younger Black Americans, but Americans from all walks of society, not just Jews, not just Israeli Americans like myself, but everyone to Israel to experience the first of all the warmth of the people, but more than that, to also to be a part of that culture, and I think there's no better way to do it than through a university, either a program like one-year program, a summer program. There's lots of different options, but that's what I have to say.
Darius, so when you started the program and you were leading with this Israel experience, how does it being accepted? Do the students know why Israel? How is it framed? If you can share that a little bit, and also what the experience in Israel actually is.
So first of all, we benefit from the fact that our organization is made up overwhelmingly of HBC graduates. That's historically Black colleges and universities. These were a number of institutions in the United States which were created on the emancipation of African Americans in the late 1860s in order to provide higher education to folks from our community. So, what was the question again? Sorry about that. I got it.
How do you frame the...
Oh, how do I frame it? Okay, great. HBCUs. Here's how we have a unique ability, I think, not only to get the university president, and to also get the students at the institutions to really understand the importance of it. And I think National Black Empowerment Council is uniquely positioned to be able to be this bridge between Israeli institutions and HBCUs, because I'll say this, I've been to Israel 32 times. Like I said, I've taken over 500 Black leaders to Israel. We sit at an intersection where on a daily basis, we help Black people understand Israel and Jewish people. And then we help Jewish people understand the prerogatives of Black people, and not only in the United States, but throughout the diaspora. And we feel like as a result of the advocacy that we've done on one side, and the fact that we carry the water on all issues that are truly germane to Black people because of the positions our folks hold, we kind of have considerable credibility on one side, unimpeachable credibility on another. So when we're talking to Black folks about why the relationship between our institutions and Israel is important, they know that they're hearing it from a very credible individual who can speak to the complexity of the situation, but then also the phenomenal opportunities. And we have a number of our members who hail from these particular institutions. So our alumni play a critical role, some of whom are on the boards of these institutions, in being able to tell these students firsthand, as alums, about their experience in Israel, about how the time there was literally transformational in terms of how they saw the world. I think one of the most phenomenal things that we always experience when we're in Israel, and I always take note of the African American leaders, is how they recognize this consistent theme. And one of the things they always applaud is how the Israeli people change the narrative from the notion of being victims to being victors, okay? And that mentality is represented through all the institutions, through the culture, in the military, everywhere you get that sense. So for us as Black leaders to be able to come back and talk to these incredibly dynamic students who are already on the trajectory to be the future leaders for our people, and say, in addition to all the amazing things that you're doing to develop yourself in leadership, we would love you to have a similar opportunity that we had, which we think will go a long way in almost kind of pre-qualifying you for a whole nother spectrum of leadership. Because sadly, there's kind of this notion in the Black community we just have to be parochial. We don't have to really focus on domestic policy issues, and it doesn't deal with jobs, it doesn't deal with crime, then it's above our pay grade. I've never believed that. So we feel a responsibility for the future of our community and to be able to be continuous stewards and contributors to a strong Black-Jewish relationship. We have to qualify our kids to be able to follow in the footsteps that we followed in. And we just feel blessed to have institutions in Israel that understand, because here's the thing, Israel's a light unto the nations, okay? Everyone knows the phenomenal things that Israel has contributed, that people around the world benefit from on a daily basis. I think it's truly exceptional that Israel's academic institutions operate that same thing. We want to be a light unto the nations. We want to share what is really foundational to the advancement of our country with leaders from your country who want to have similar agency over their own lives. And intelligent students sign up for this program on a daily basis because they understand the importance of the opportunity and the responsibility.
I'm interested in what is it that they do when they're in Israel, what's the structure briefly, and I think it's incredible that you just articulated the mission statement of the Jewish people in a way that I think most Jews can't really articulate it, and I think that's amazing.
So it's going to be a twofold process. So there is what we call, there's a fellowship aspect. It's called the 9 Pillars of Dynamic Citizenship. It's called the 9 Pillars of Dynamic Citizenship. It's called the 9 Pillars of Dynamic Citizenship, okay? And what this is, something that I created, began with a student leadership group called Vanguard Leadership Group that I began even before I came working in APEC. It was like started in 2003. And really it was 9 areas above and beyond what you were going to get your degree in that we thought would really prepare you for like a whole next higher order of leadership. So things like understanding foreign policy, understanding the science of business, not just its disparate parts, understanding Black historical achievement, so you get a true sense of who you are as a person, community development. And what's interesting about our 9 Pillars of Dynamic Citizenship is that under each pillar, Israel is a case study as an example for these principles in action. So the students who are participating in the fellowship program are going through this curriculum, which helps them understand their responsibility as Black leaders, their solidarity with our brothers and sisters in the Jewish community, and they're seeing powerful examples of what that leadership can look like. And then these are the students that are then going to have the opportunity to travel to Israel and participate in various summer programs or who want to matriculate for a longer period of time. And then we have other institutions like Texas Southern University that want a direct wholesale relationship between their institution and Israeli institutions as well. So we created a pipeline to have, hopefully, a lot of dynamic students coming to your country and learning. And let me just make this one other point, though. Let me make this one other point why I think this is important, okay? And I don't want to go too deep here, but it's less from history, all right? So in the 60s and the 70s, you had the African republics that began to get their freedom, okay? The United States and Russia made a very concerted effort to identify the children of the elites in those countries, and they invited them to study in their respective institutions, okay? And if you look at the continent of Africa, where you see socialist economies and where you see capitalist economies can directly be traced to that education. Our thought in taking this to Israel, particularly at a time after October 7th, when now the international community's opinions are going to have to be made right towards Israel, that with 1.6 billion people of African descent in the world, if an early stage process can begin, both in the United States and then throughout the Black diaspora, for Israel to begin to educate some of these students, it could have a comparable effect over time. And the thing is, it sounds fanciful, but we'll never know if it can actually happen unless we get the process started. So I'm grateful that we're getting the process started.
That is so strategic. I love it. Maya, I want to go back to you and actually want to ask a personal question about identity. So, going to study at Tel Aviv University and having a, as we say, a dual identity, Israeli and American, how did that contribute to your own personal identity?
Well, it was a very important piece of my growth, essentially. I lived always in America thinking, I wasn't fully American or fully Israeli. And then what happened is going to experience those numbers of years in Israel. By the way, I started at university, but then I also married an Israeli and ended up staying and working there, and sort of gave I would say all my 20s was spent in Israel until we had to come back to the United States for an unfortunate reason. But anyway, it was very much a discovery process, a self-discovery process that was a personal discovery, but also it connected me to my Judaism. It also sort of opened me up to the world, to global thinking in general. I don't always think just through an American lens. I think through sometimes a more European or Asian or whatever. I don't know. Sometimes, technically Israel's in Asia, but a European lens. Yeah. I think it's given me a bit of sense of diversity, but not in the American sense of diversity. In other words, Israel has its own different kinds of struggles that you get to see up close when you're there and understand both within the Jewish community and outside of it, and of course with our our neighbors, the neighborhood of the Middle East, so the Palestinian and Arab neighbors. But just, you learn so much, but also you feel very fortunate because I think that it's a historical story that you can get to be a part of. So I hope that, for me it was very meaningful, and I'm just very encouraged by everything that I'm hearing from Darius here.
We have the head of our alumni here, Shai, and one of the numbers that stuck with my head, learning more about the Lowy University and American Friends of them, is that we have over 20,000 alumni in the States. Ah, yes, Tzipi. I'll bring you on stage, be careful. And about a third are American study abroad programs who go to study at Tel Aviv University. And 2/3 are Israelis who studied in the university and moved to the States, which is first of all fascinating to discover in an IAC lens how the two different directions and cultures work. I think that the more we bring students and bring them together as alum, we see the dual culture, and we see how we can bridge our differences in our cultures moving forward. I wanted to ask Darius, what do you think the future looks like? What would you like to see when it comes to strategic partnerships? By the way, not just Tel Aviv University, all universities in Israel. And understanding the network of universities, communities here, and what is achievable, what is doable, your experience in APAC, what you're doing now. What would you like to see 5, 10 years down the line?
I mean, I would love to see us currently there are 102 historically black colleges and universities in the United States. I'd love to see us in 5 years get to maybe 25, 50 of some of the, stronger institutions actually having these partnerships, and then having students matriculate over in Israel. Also, because National Black Empowerment Council increasingly is building these networks internationally, and we were really buoyed in that effort. I'm not sure, but people are aware, but we took Nelson and Winnie Mandela's granddaughters to Israel in October. So at the very same time, it speaks to the bias in the international media. So at the very time that the other grandson by Nelson's first wife was in the flotillas, and everybody in the world was paying attention to him and Greta Thunberg, we had the granddaughters, the very public, the custodians of the legacy, Zazwa and Swati, with us in Israel for the exact same period of time, where we met with President Herzog. And we even went to Gaza, okay? Because what we did is, there are so many people in our community, my community, who do not believe that Israel is doing anything to redress some of the challenges that are being faced by people in Gaza. So the Mandela granddaughters asked if it was possible for us to go into Gaza. And we went into Gaza under the protection of the IDF and American defense contractors, where the Mandela granddaughters, myself, were able to feed 10,000 Palestinian women and children. Okay? As a mechanism. But the Mandelas were willing to use their legacy and their name to bring vital attention to something that Israel was doing that it wasn't getting the appropriate credit for. So having the Mandelas associated with our organization, I think, is going to really help us in our ability to bring more amazing leaders from Africa. And then also, when we're doing our work here, and you meet somebody from the black community, and you're like, man, why are you doing this Israel stuff? Israel. I'm like, it's good enough for the Mandelas. Who are you to tell the Mandelas that they don't think that Israel is an apartheid power? So it was great to have them there on so many different levels. I think it was a kind of a positive shot in the arm that a lot of folks in Israel benefited from or appreciated. When they said that on international TV, they were very courageous. They went back to South Africa. We all know how South Africa feels about Israel. They went on TV in South Africa and said Israel is not an apartheid power. That's not out moral clarity. That's courage. So I think with their involvement with us and their example and their strong stance on this issue and the international respect with which they're held, particularly within the black diaspora, I think it just adds even more credibility, and then therefore will bring more students and other black leaders to this effort.
Meyer, same question, different perspective. As we're setting the policies for strategy for ourselves, American friends, the university, we have this tool, this vehicle, this interest for people to go and study and do academic research, partnerships, vast networks of international universities we're working with. What would you like to see universities in Israel do with that, use that, and guiding us in the strategy of that?
I think that you asked the question nicely, because I of course care about Tel Aviv University, but I care about academia in Israel in general as well. And I'd like to see a number of things. I'd like to see young Jewish Americans coming to Israel first, doing gap years, doing part of their studies perhaps, study abroad there. But I would love to see a world where we are attractive to people across the board. And it does so much. Not only does it teach the people who are coming about the beauty of the country and a lot of the other, alleviate some of the misunderstandings, like what you just said about apartheid, for instance, Darius. But beyond that, I think Israelis will learn a lot from having, outsiders come and sort of give them their perspective and be able to basically to discuss and to grow from that partnership. That's one thing. Beyond that, I think it also will lend a lot more legitimacy to our academia, where, in other words, right now we're struggling in the face of the world, with BDS programs and people who are wanting to minimize the amazing research and the amazing discoveries that happen at Israeli universities. And I think having more partners, having more people who can say, no, I was there and I know that they do it, or learning about, say, entrepreneurship through the lens of the Startup Nation. That's the kind of partnerships that I think, they're ground up, they're personal, and they really do help fuel, generations of hopefully friendship and allyship. And so that's what I hope. And as the head of alumni at Tel Aviv University, I'd love to host many events with international students of all kinds and include them into our network, because that's what it's all about. Yeah.
I'll say one other thing that I would also like to see develop over time. I think that the Ethiopian Jews are some of the most phenomenal people and ambassadors that the state of Israel has. Wow. And I would love to have the opportunity for some of those Ethiopian students to have a chance to come to the United States and spend some time at HBCUs here in America. Okay. What I think is interesting it's no one's fault, it's just circumstance. I feel like they are black people, and sadly, because of the international community's all the foolishness happening in that space, I feel like they're kind of isolated, and they're kind of outside of the black diaspora because of how they had to leave Africa. Then it's also very difficult a lot of times for them to travel and to be able to go different places. So they're black, but they're isolated. So, they provide National Black Empowerment Council with the opportunity to say, we're not just in Israel doing Black-Jewish relations and U.S.-Israel relations. They're part of our 6th region. They're part of the black diaspora. So we want to figure out opportunities to have them come to the United States, or to have them come to other institutions where they can see what it's like to see and empower black people living here in the United States. And then at the very same time, they're going to be engaging with people, talking about their experiences in Israel. They're the most patriotic people I've ever met. So I think that they could also go a long way in terms of helping more black students here understand and appreciate Israel as well.
The experience we had in Ethiopia was incredible for me as well. For the first time in Ethiopia, and then just to make a personal connection, the person who guided us into this group in Ethiopia was my friend Nina, who is a Tel Aviv University alum and the head of the Hillel of Tel Aviv University in the past. You both gave me two interesting ideas. One is we need to include all of Darius's students and alumni in our alumni committee, because they went to the university. And vice versa, I think we need to make sure that more Ethiopian students are coming to the States and are involved in your activities. Love that. I think we have time for some questions in the audience. Tzipi? No, go ahead. Yeah. No, it's not going to work. Really? Okay.
Darius, you've spent much of your life dedicated to helping improve relationships between the Black community and the Jewish community. And today we heard you talk a lot about building that support for Israel and the Jewish community within the Black community. What more can we be doing to do the same in the opposite direction, to make sure that we're doing the things necessary to support the Black community, particularly here in America, as challenges arise? And we've been in the crosshairs for the last couple of years, but it wasn't long before that the Black community was in the crosshairs, and those cycles seem to repeat.
Yeah, that's a serious, great question. I mean, my thing is these relationships they have to be reciprocal, okay? But I don't mean reciprocal in terms of a transactional type of relationship. I'm talking like really beginning to get to know each other as individuals, understanding what animates you, understanding what's important to you, and then for whatever resources, whatever relationships, whatever institutional influence you have that can bring some sort of redress to a problem that somebody who's in your coalition is talking about. Let's figure out ways that we can do it, you know? I mean, that's what we're doing on our side, and I think that to the degree, and people in the Jewish community are doing it to an incredible degree as well, and I think we just need to put a little bit more structure around it, because I think it's something, because I come from AIPAC, and Faber said that AIPAC is, you can't build an AIPAC on the day that you need it. So when you think about the critical relationships that are going to be necessary between blacks and Jews going forward, we need to continuously be leaning into those relationships. And here's another thing I say, you know, again, reflective of my AIPAC background, I say it to the American Jewish community. About 6 million Jews in the United States, right? This is a 340 million person, two-party democracy. If you have 6 million people and you live in certain areas, most congressional districts in the United States have no statistically significant Jewish population at all, okay? So the two most political constituencies, the two most important political constituencies, I think, for the Jewish community relationships with, evangelical Christians on the right, obviously, 100 million, they go overwhelmingly Republican. On the left, foolishness going on the left, particularly the far left, okay? But black people are the heart and soul of the Democratic Party. We are the offense and defensive line of the party, and we tend to not be extremists. Because I see, I'm just being funny now, but I would watch the disturbances, the riots that were happening on Columbia and other Ivy League campuses. And Howard. Yeah, and Howard. No. And I'm looking at it as a black guy, I'm like, please don't let many black kids. Just so you know, I'm like, oh God, please don't let any black kids. So there were a few, but I need you to be honest, black people was not out there, and we were not out there in big numbers, okay? And I love having the Jewish friends that we trust each other, and we can start to have like real relations and real conversations. So I would see some of these protests, and I would see a black kid in the crowd interspersed with a bunch of other folks, and I'm not trying to be funny, but the kid would have like 3 or 4 earrings in his nose, this, pink hair, all that. As a black person, I'm like, that person is not there because they're antagonistic to Israel. That is a person trying to find some identity, okay? They are a fish out of water, and they're trying to find connection with any group that will find value in them. And they're not thinking ideologically. They're just caught up in something that they don't even understand. That's why when you ask them which river and which sea, they have no idea. And I would just always encourage my brothers and sisters in the Jewish community, if you see that black kid with the pink hair, do not extrapolate that out to the whole black community and say, we're losing the black community because I see this smattering over. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's time for us to be able to have those kind of candid conversations with each other. In the social media age, there are always going to be people who are going to pick up a phone and send off a tweet, and it's going to be divisive. And I think what's necessary is for us to have trusted relationships at the leadership level, and then also at the organizational level, so that when individual actors do things, that's an individual actor, okay? But when it triggers a reaction by an organization, that then is a representative of the people. And then that creates situations which can escalate and have us really thinking that there are significant issues there. So we need to be able to talk to each other openly and honestly. There needs to be reciprocal understanding and relationship, because the turbulence is not going to go anywhere. It's only going to continue, and we need to be prepared for it. And I think these programs, which are bringing students into a space where they're going to learn about the importance of moral clarity, they're going to learn the importance of civil discourse, they're going to learn the ability to think critically and to not succumb to every whim that they see on social media. Those are the students, I think, that are going to carry the torch going forward and help us keep the wheels on the wagon.
Hey guys, this is a really great panel. My name's Ron Mazer, Columbia University alum. Actually, I'm on the board for Downey with the alumni. So Columbia actually has a dual degree program at Columbia University, and a good friend of mine actually did medical school partly at TAU. A good friend of mine from Columbia, not Jewish, did his medical degree partly at Tel Aviv and partly at Columbia, New York. are there thoughts about ways that HBCUs or even students at Ivy League schools that are, whether they're Jewish or not Jewish, might find a way to Tel Aviv or to Israel generally for professional studies, whether it's dental school, medical school, law school, ways to kind of integrate with Columbia University has done with Tel Aviv University? On the recruiting side as well as for administration side. Yeah, Tel Aviv University has medical school, law school, and dental school, obviously. And some schools in the U.S. actually partner with Tel Aviv University and do dual degree programs. Any thoughts about outreach to American students from all backgrounds and all walks of life?
I guess I would say, let's walk before we can run.
What?
Let's walk before we can run. Let's get this. Let's get this thing. Let's get it started. Let's get some strong proof of concept. Because this is in its nascent stages. Like, we're not talking about something that's already been 10, 15 years in development. The TSU Memorandum of Understanding, that was something that was signed literally a month and a half ago. So this is something, we're talking to you, we're forecasting about something that's going to come down the pipe, that's coming down the pipe, it's already in motion. It's going to be very critical going forward.
That the Tel Aviv Columbia program is only 3 years old. It's been doing very well. Like the first cohorts are excited and they come back, energized. However, I agree with Darius. We are still, I think, at the first stages of that. And there's also been some pushback here and there. So I would like to, I like the intent of what you're saying is heard, which is let's try to even broaden the reach of those programs as well, which I'm for. So it just takes first having a very successful program, and then I think it will encourage others to join. So that's it.
And I'll add also that, first of all, I love it. It's very strategic. We want to see high-level partnerships like that. They're harder to get by. I'm learning that when dealing with universities, these are big institutions. These are mostly bureaucratic, administrative types of organizations. By the way, this is positive and negative. Once you get in, you actually stay. I asked Maureen, who was supposed to be here, from the over 100 partnerships that the university has with other universities around the world, how many, because we hear about the negativity constantly in social media, how many universities stopped their partnership in the last 2 years because of antisemitism? She said 3 or 4. I asked why. She said the contract ended. So it's not what, but by the way, and I'm sure that if she was here, she will tell you there are difficulties. Some people want to stop these partnerships, but it's very hard to stop them once they're rolling. So I think you're right. And I believe that that's what the future is going to show. Actually, we're talking to Florida University. We're talking to a bunch of universities that are willing to invest and create these partnerships.
Yeah, I applaud I really applaud the work that you're doing. And I think this is a very good initiative. I myself have taught at a HBCU in Charlotte, Johnson Beach, Johnson C. Smith, and have been on several boards for HBCUs as a continuity of them in the American scene. I think that there's a lot of potential. I did this work with Oprah Winfrey, with her graduates from her high school that she had supported in South Africa, and a few Rwandan refugees, a few others. They haven't been going very well. And they haven't been going very well, these partnerships. Partly because, and this is what I'd like to not just caution you, but also the challenge of this audience and others, is to get other people involved, as many of us as involved, former professors and others, to help support you in doing this, because they're not prepared well to begin on the front end, and there's no continuity on the back end. There's very little that happens other than just getting the exact project going. So I'd like to both volunteer, but also see and do a recruitment of volunteers and people to make sure that the entire program is successful on the front end, both recruitment, but also preparation of the students before they get on an airplane, but also what happens there and what happens when they come back. Because all those 3 stages are as important as every other stage. It isn't just the physicality of getting people there, but what happens when they get back, because things have gone awry, and the people who are not prepared usually fall apart.
Absolutely. No, you're
But I think
absolutely right. Absolutely right. So what I was saying, so with our program, as I mentioned earlier, we have this preparatory fellowship, which takes you through what we call the 9 pillars of dynamic citizenship. There's an illustrious African-American professor by the name of Dr. Ivy Tolson from Howard University. He ran the White House HBCU initiative under President Obama. He is the instructor for our program, okay? So students are gonna have an opportunity to, through this curriculum, understand how Israel as an exemplar can inform and inspire these critical elements of their own development. So they're going there favorably disposed. Just like with the adult members who go to our organization, I take people who have not only been recommended to be vouched for. You know, I say to folks in the Jewish community all the time, like, I'm not taking detractors. So if somebody's saying, I know this black guy, he hates Israel, you should take him on your trip. Not take him on my trip, okay? Because he's gonna have a transformative experience, but then when he comes back, he's gonna fall back into his familiar surroundings, and then he's not gonna advocate, he's gonna shrink. So that's not a good return on investment. Going with people who are open and amenable, and let's build from there, okay? And we'll do the same thing with these students. We'll get people who are open and amenable, because that's somebody that is going to stick with you when the New York Times comes out and says, Israel did this. And then from the student standpoint, when they come back, the alumni who are part of National Black Empowerment Council are playing an active role in mentorship and professional development of the students who come from their institutions. Okay, so we think of this thing through from soup to nuts, because if you as a black person go to Israel and you have a powerful transformative experience, if you don't know that you're a part of this other illustrious network of amazing black leaders who had the same experience and who are there to support you, not just in your advocacy, but then also in your professional development, then you have the impetus to come out and say, you know what, you're actually wrong about Israel. Let me tell you about my experience. And you don't feel like you're solo. You feel like, the strength of the wolf is in the pack.
One last question.
Thank you both so much for everything you do to help foster this collaboration between U.S. universities and Israeli universities. So I've spent most of my life in academia, and I saw the BDS stuff going on when I was an undergrad, and then more recently as I was wrapping up my PhD. And one thing that was always so frustrating to me was, it's so obvious that the BDS will just never happen from the administrator's standpoint, and that, there's all this pressure to stop these collaborations with these universities, or, even if they don't stop, to not initiate new ones. And it just seems like it'd be such an easy thing for the administration of these universities to be like, hey, we appreciate your right to freedom of speech, but this is just not gonna happen because this is why this is valuable and important. Yet that doesn't happen. They just let these people scream, and then they don't divest or don't stop these partnerships. And I'm just curious why you think they can't just come out and say why it's valuable, because it so clearly is, and how we can make sure that these things don't stop in the wake of all this, loud protesting.
Well, I mean, one thing, I can kind of hear a question, but then somehow it's weird. You feel like an echo. It's kind of so there's an audio problem with that. But what I would say that I was also proud of is that during all the services that were happening at Ivy League campus and all those other places, you didn't see that happen at HBCU. Yeah. Black college kids were like, man, get out of here with that. But let me tell you why. Okay. First time I traveled to Israel, 2009. Went to a kibbutz in the north. Tour guide was telling us a story about the kibbutz experience. He said, throughout Israeli history, a significant number of Israeli prime ministers, top generals, leaders in the tech space, people who truly are the stewards of the elevation of our country, have had a kibbutz experience. And I was like, wow, okay. I said, what would be the black equivalent of something that you could experience that would then instill in you a sense of your own capability, that sense of your own responsibility, and that never say die, failure is not an option attitude? It's HBCUs. So that's why when you talk to historically black colleges and universities about this, they see the Israeli ethos and they connect with it, because they're like, that is truly what we are trying to educate our children into. coming. So the synergies between HBCs, like you could go, I'm not trying to speak ill of anybody, you go to PW, you go to a whole bunch of different institutions, okay? But if you're trying to really build relationships with the black folks that are gonna really carry the water for our community going forward in mass, and who are gonna have a natural inclination to understand who you are and why you do what you do, I'll focus those resources on HBCUs.
I don't have anything to add because the truth is you're asking a question that's about American academia and I don't know why they're not just taking a stronger stand. I wish they were.
I want to try and go back to your question, and I'm inspired by Darius and actually by the simplicity of mapping interests. And I think that when there is a clear self-interest for an institution to do the work that they're doing for either research in high level or for other leadership and whatever other goals, it will trump the noise that you hear from the students and from social media in the long term and even in the short term. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. And I think we're all bombarded by excess, hyper social media, which is real. It bothers us. It's real. But I don't think that institutions might change what they're doing because of that. Hopefully. So I think it's going back to interests, real interest, showing real research, real partnerships, and I think in innovation, in investment. Listen, everybody's here in a conference talking about the miracle that the Israeli stock exchange is doing better than any other stock exchange in the world. In this period of time, it's a miracle. It's I don't think never happened in any other country, but it happens. Okay, thank you all very, very much. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, Meyer, for jumping in and helping us.
Thank you, guys.